There's a device sitting in your home right now. You use it every single day. You trust it completely. You have probably never given it a second thought in terms of your financial security. And scammers figured out how to use it to drain bank accounts months ago. The problem is that the warning never reached the people who needed it most. Not on the evening news, not in a letter from your bank, not in any government alert that actually made it to the people sitting in front of this screen right now. And while that warning was absent, the theft was not. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, which you can find at ic3.gov, reported that Americans lost more than $12.5 billion to fraud in the most recent reporting year. And the fastest growing category in that report was not email scams. It was not fake websites. It was device-based exploitation. Criminals using the everyday technology already inside your home to get to your money without ever knocking on your door. I am going to tell you exactly which device it is, exactly how the scam works, exactly what they are doing with your information once they have it, and most importantly, exactly what you can do today, right now, for free, to make sure this never happens to you or anyone you love. Stay with me until the end, because the final thing I'm going to cover is the specific technique these criminals use that nobody is talking about publicly, the one that has the highest success rate of anything on this list, and the one that is specifically designed to fool people who consider themselves careful and savvy. If you think you are too smart to fall for a scam, that technique was built for you specifically. But before I go one more word further, I need you to share this video right now. Not when it ends, right now. Because somebody in your life, your mother, your father, your neighbor down the street, your friend who just retired and is home alone most of the day, is sitting next to this device right now with no idea what is happening. One share from you takes 3 seconds and could be the thing that stands between someone you love and losing their life savings. I am not being dramatic. I am being accurate. Share it now. Then come back and we are going to go through every single piece of this together. The device is your home Wi-Fi router. That small box sitting on your shelf or tucked behind your television or sitting on a desk somewhere in your house that blinks quietly and that you probably have not thought about since the day it was installed. That device is the front door to everything digital in your home. Your bank account access, your email, your medical records, your social security information, every password your devices have ever remembered, every account you have ever logged into from inside your house. All of it flows through that router. And most American households are running routers that have not been updated, reconfigured, or even had their passwords changed since the day they were set up, in some cases, years ago. Here is what they are not telling you about this. The router vulnerability problem is not new. Cybersecurity researchers have been flagging it for years. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, known as CISA and accessible at cisa.gov, has published multiple advisories about home router security risks going back to 2019. The Federal Trade Commission at ftc.gov has issued consumer guidance on this topic. The FBI has sent alerts. But here is the reality. Those advisories went to tech publications. They went to corporate IT departments. They went to people already paying close attention to cybersecurity. They did not reach the 67-year-old retired nurse in Phoenix who set up her router 6 years ago and has not touched it since. They did not reach the 72-year-old retired teacher in Virginia who does not know what a firmware update is and has never been told why it matters. The information existed, the protection never arrived. And here is who benefits from that gap staying exactly as wide as it is. The scam networks operating this scheme are sophisticated, organized, and profitable enough to function like businesses. They invest in tools that automatically scan the internet for vulnerable routers. They identify households by geographic area, by the age of the router model, by the default settings that signal a device that has never been properly configured. And they prioritize targets based on signals that suggest the household contains older residents. Because older Americans statistically hold more savings, are less likely to have changed default router settings, and are less likely to detect unauthorized network access before significant damage has already been done. The targeting is not random, it is deliberate. And the information asymmetry, the fact that the people being targeted know the least about how the attack works, is the entire business model. Most people will never know this happened to them. They will notice unusual account activity weeks later. They will get a call from their bank about a transaction they did not make. They will discover that their email password stopped working. And by that time, the access has already been used. The information has already been sold. And tracing it back to the router is something most people never do. Let me walk you through exactly how this works and exactly what you need to do about each piece of it. Vulnerability number 1. Your router is almost certainly still using its factory default login credentials. And criminals have a complete list of every default username and password for every router model ever sold. This is the one that catches everyone off guard because it sounds almost too simple to be real. When your router was manufactured, the factory programmed it with a default administrative username and password, something like admin and password, or admin and 1234, or the model number of the device. These defaults are not secret. They are published in the user manuals, which are publicly available online, and there are freely accessible databases that list the default credentials for thousands of router models. Any criminal with a laptop and basic tools can attempt to log into your router's administrative interface using that default login. If you never changed it, they get in. And once they are in, they control your network. Here is what control means in plain English. They can redirect your internet traffic so that when you type in your bank's website address, you are silently sent to a fake version that looks identical. They can intercept the information you type, including usernames, passwords, and account numbers. They can install monitoring software on your network that watches everything flowing through it. And they can do all of this without you seeing a single sign that anything is wrong. Dorothy is 68, a retired registered nurse from Albuquerque, New Mexico. She has had the same router for 7 years. She never changed the default login because she did not know it was something she was supposed to do. A criminal accessed her router's administrative panel using the published default credentials for her router model. Over the following 3 weeks, her banking credentials were captured through a technique called DNS hijacking, which means her computer was silently redirected to a fake bank login page that looked exactly like the real one. She entered her username and password. The fake page recorded it and sent her to the real site, so she noticed nothing unusual. By the time her bank called her about suspicious transactions, $4,300 had been moved out of her checking account. The action step here is free and takes 10 minutes. Open a browser on any device connected to your home network and type 192.168.1.1 into the address bar. This is the default gateway address for most home routers, and it will bring up your router's administrative login page. Check whether you are still using the factory default username and password. If you are, change the password immediately to something unique, at least 12 characters long, combining letters, numbers, and symbols. If you need help with this, the CISA website at cisa.gov has a step-by-step guide for securing home routers written in plain language. Now keep watching, because vulnerability number 2 is the one that operates completely invisibly and has been actively exploited in residential neighborhoods across the country for the past 18 months. Vulnerability number 2. Your router's firmware has almost certainly never been updated, and outdated firmware contains known security holes that criminals exploit automatically. Firmware is the software built into your router that controls how it operates. Think of it the same way you think about updates on your phone or your computer. When researchers discover a security flaw in a piece of software, the manufacturer releases an update that fixes it. If you never install that update, the flaw stays open. And once a flaw is publicly known, criminals build automated tools that scan for devices still running the vulnerable version and exploit them at scale without any human intervention required. The average American home router has not received a firmware update in more than 3 years, according to security research compiled by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is accessible at nist.gov. 3 years of known vulnerabilities sitting unpatched on a device that controls access to everything in your digital life. Write this down, because the fix for this one is also free. Log into your router's administrative panel using the process I just described. Look for a section labeled Firmware Update, Software Update, or Router Update. Most modern routers have an option to check for updates automatically. Enable that option if it is available. If your router model is more than 5 to 7 years old, it may no longer receive firmware updates from the manufacturer at all, which means the security flaws in it will never be fixed. In that case, the action step is to replace the router with a current model. Basic home routers from reputable manufacturers are available for $50 to $80 and represent one of the highest return on investment security purchases you can make for your household. Quick question for the comments. Have you ever updated your router's firmware or changed its default password? Yes or no? Because your responses are going to tell me exactly how many people watching this are currently exposed. And I am building a follow-up video specifically about the step-by-step process for every major router brand. Drop your answer below. Stay with me, because vulnerability number 3 is the one the scammers are currently most actively exploiting, and the one that requires zero technical knowledge on their part to pull off. Vulnerability number 3. Criminals are using your router's guest network feature to position themselves as a trusted middleman between you and your bank. Here is what this means in plain English. Most modern routers have a feature called a guest network. It is designed to let visitors use your internet connection without giving them access to your main network and the devices on it. It is a useful feature when it is set up correctly. But here is what criminals have figured out. If they can access your router's administrative panel, which they can do easily if you never changed the default password, they can create or modify the guest network in a way that routes certain types of traffic through their own monitoring systems before it reaches the internet. This technique is called a man-in-the-middle attack. The criminal positions their system between you and the website you are trying to reach. You think you are communicating directly with your bank. You are actually communicating with a system that is recording everything and then forwarding it to your bank, so you never notice any disruption. Your login goes in, your password goes in, your account number goes in, and every piece of it is captured before it ever reaches the legitimate destination. George is 74, a retired aerospace engineer from Huntsville, Alabama. He is not someone you would describe as uninformed about technology. He spent his career working with complex systems. He knew what a guest network was. What he did not know was that someone had accessed his router and modified the guest network settings 3 months earlier after successfully logging in with the factory default administrative password he had never changed. For 3 months, every time he logged into his brokerage account from his home network, his credentials were being captured. He discovered the breach when his brokerage flagged an attempted login from an overseas IP address using his correct username and password. The damage was caught before money moved, but the investigation cost him 2 months of account freezes and significant stress. The action step here is to log into your router's administrative panel and review your guest network settings. If you do not use the guest network feature, disable it entirely. If you do use it, make sure it has a strong, unique password and that it is configured to be isolated from your main network. Your router's manual or the manufacturer's support website will show you exactly how to check this. And keep watching, because what I am going to cover next is the technique I told you about at the very beginning, the one with the highest success rate, the one designed specifically to fool careful people. I am almost there. Do not click away now. Vulnerability number 4. Criminals are using a technique called router DNS hijacking to replace your bank's real website with a perfect fake, without touching your computer at all. DNS stands for Domain Name System. In plain English, it is the phone book of the internet. When you type your bank's web address into your browser, your router looks up that address in the DNS system and connects you to the correct location. Here is what criminals do when they have access to your router. They change the DNS setting so that your router is consulting their fake phone book instead of the real one. Their fake phone book has one change in it. Your bank's web address now points to their fake website instead of the real bank's server. You type the exact correct address. You see what looks exactly like your bank's website. The logo is right. The colors are right. The login form is right. You enter your username and password. That information goes directly to the criminals. And then their fake site redirects you to the real bank's website with a message saying something like, "Your session expired. Please log in again." You log in again on the real site. Everything looks normal. You never know anything happened, but your credentials are gone. This is the one that catches careful, experienced people. Because everything you were told to watch for, misspelled web addresses, strange-looking websites, suspicious emails asking you to click links, none of it applies here. You type the address yourself. The site looked exactly right. The protection failed not at the browser level, but at the router level, before your browser even got involved. The action step here has 2 parts. First, secure your router using everything I have already described. Change the default administrative password. Update the firmware. Disable unused features. Second, call your bank and ask them to enable 2-factor authentication on your account, if it is not already active. 2-factor authentication means that even if a criminal captures your username and password, they still cannot access your account without a second verification step, usually a code sent to your phone. It is free. It is available at virtually every major financial institution, and it is one of the most effective protections against exactly this type of credential theft. Go to your bank's website or call the number on the back of your debit card and ask how to enable it today. Now, I need to pause here and warn you about something happening right now that is directly connected to everything I've just told you. Since awareness of router-based scams has started growing, A secondary scam has emerged that is specifically targeting people who are worried about their router security. Fraudulent phone calls are being made to households across the country by criminals claiming to be from your internet service provider, from a government cybersecurity agency, or from your router's manufacturer. These callers tell you that your router has been flagged for a security issue and that they need remote access to your device to fix it. They may know your name. They may know your approximate location. They may know what internet provider you use, information that is often available through public databases. And if you give them remote access, they will use it to do exactly what I have been describing, compromising your router and your network while you watch. Let me say this one more time so it lands completely. Your internet provider will never call you unsolicited and ask for remote access to your router to fix a security issue. CISA will never call your personal phone number and ask you to take immediate action on your home network. No legitimate technical support organization calls you out of nowhere and asks to control your device. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Do not provide any information. Do not allow remote access to anything. Report the call to the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov. And if you are concerned your router may actually have an issue, call your internet provider directly using the number on your monthly bill, not the number the caller gives you. Now, only take a moment before the action steps, because you deserve more than just a list of things to do. Think about what you have built over your lifetime. You worked for decades. You saved carefully. You made decisions that other people would have found easier to avoid. You built a financial foundation. Maybe not a perfect one, maybe not a large one by some measures, but yours. Earned through years of showing up, doing the work, and putting away what you could. And now there are criminals running automated systems that are specifically looking for people like you. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you built something worth taking. And because the systems that were supposed to warn you about this threat, the banks, the government agencies, the mainstream news coverage, did not reach you in time or in a way that was actually useful. That is not acceptable. And it is the entire reason this conversation is happening right now. You deserve to know how the threat works. You deserve to know how to stop it. And the protection I have described costs you nothing but a few minutes of your time. Here is your action stack in order. Do these things today. First, log into your router's administrative panel by typing 192.168.1.1 into your browser's address bar and change the administrative password from the factory default to something unique and strong that you write down and keep somewhere safe. Second, while you are in the administrative panel, check for firmware updates and install any that are available. Enable automatic updates if the option exists. Third, review your guest network settings. If you do not use it, disable it. If you do use it, change its password and verify it is isolated from your main network. Fourth, check your router's DNS settings in the administrative panel and confirm they show the DNS addresses provided by your internet service provider, not an unfamiliar address you do not recognize. If you see an address you do not recognize, call your internet provider immediately. Fifth, contact your bank and enable two-factor authentication on every financial account you hold. This is free, takes 10 minutes, and dramatically reduces the impact of any credential theft. Sixth, if you receive any unsolicited call about your router or home network security, hang up and report it to reportfraud.ftc.gov. Every one of those steps is free. Every one of them is completable today. The only option that costs you something is doing nothing. Now send this to the people in your life who need it. Your mother, who has had the same router since her grandchildren set it up for her 5 years ago. Your father, who is home alone most of the day and would never know if someone was watching his network traffic. Your neighbor, who just retired and is now doing all of her banking from home for the first time. Your brother or sister, who trusts their home internet connection the same way they trust their front door lock, without realizing the lock was never changed from the factory setting. This is not content. This is a warning. And the people who receive it in time are the ones who get to keep what they worked for. One share from you right now is the most protective thing you can do for someone you love in the next 3 seconds. Do it now, and we will see you in the next one.